So, hello everyone, you're all very welcome to the Grad Ireland Summer Fair and the second talk of today. Hopefully, you're all enjoying the fair so far. In this session, we have Judy Murphy, career consultant at IT Carlow, who will be talking to you about how to create a CV which will leave a lasting impression and help you to stand out from the crowd. So, as always, you can ask questions by putting them in the chat box to the right hand side of the screen. If someone has already asked a question you were thinking of, or you just like the question, you can upvote it, and time permitting, we'll get to the most popular questions at the end and put them to Judy. There's also a poll which you can see to the right of the chat box as well. So please have your say and let us know what you think by voting on that poll. So now I'll hand you over to Judy, who's going to take you through the session. So to you, Judy.
Thank you very much, Piers. That's great. So welcome everybody, and thanks for joining the session today to this really important issue around how really to create impact with your CV, how to stand out from the crowd. So I'm in our short time together today, I'm going to give you just some strategies and tactics just to help you on your way. So one of the things we often think about in terms of our CV is just bang the CV off to an employer. You know, someone sent 100 CVs to an employer once. You know, you have to create those opportunities for yourself. They don't happen. And my little career tree here, there are lots of different things that contribute to really inputting into your CV that make that CV for you or make you the person. So one of the things to remember is opportunities don't happen, you create them. And that's sort of more or less the theme today. So how do you create opportunities? Because finding a job takes time. You know, there isn't anybody really out there necessarily in your corner saying, God, I wonder whenever Judy's going to finish her course and I'll be here waiting to offer them a job. You have to create that opportunity. So the key skills in helping you create those opportunities are, and you know, today we may have people who've maybe just finished first year, right up to final year, and even beyond, lifelong learners, etc. But have you done research? Have you looked at the jobs you might be interested in? And that's something you should do on a regular basis anyway. So have you done any research? Do you know what companies you'd like to work for, etc.? Who's in your network? 80% plus of job offers are given to you from people in your network. So that's the most important thing from your point of view. You know, skills development. What are you doing to develop your skills? You know, what did you do last summer? You know, we were all more or less locked down-ish. So what skills did you do? Some students actually took up coding. Others did, you know, conflict management, personal skills, communication skills. So what skills what time and effort have you put into developing you? Now, one of the most important things as well is, you know, the brand. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. What's your social media like? You know, employers do look you up. So what's your brand saying about you? Do you look like too much of a fun person to be serious about work, or what? But think about your brand. Have you applied for jobs yet? So for first years, guys, have you looked at maybe what companies are going to be offering insight days, insight weeks next year? Have you looked at maybe, even if you're going from first year to second year and it's a 4-year degree, you still have a chance to maybe get a summer placement. And for students who are going into placement year, think about, where would you like to go in your placement next year? Go help yourself. Don't just depend on the college to find your placement. Go do something about it yourself. And for final year students, apart from saying, please register for the Grad Ireland Fair on the 1st of October, which is really important. All the jobs are going to be coming out then. So what have you applied for? And all the jobs that will be advertised in September are for positions to be taken up following September. So if you do apply, put time and effort into it, etc. Really important. But all of this needs a CV, and that is really important. LinkedIn profile as well, probably not negotiable. You really need to get up and running on LinkedIn. Fine tune your interview skills, and for anyone who's lifelong learning, please continue your continuing professional development. It's really important, and it's a great story at interview. So where do you start? We all probably have our master's CV, which is a great one to have, you know, where you've everything you've done, including the kitchen sink, and it's there ready to go. But what's really important is you start with your CV and you start with the job description of the job you're interested in, and then you look to match up your skills with the job, which is exactly what the hiring manager does when he gets your CV, scanning your CV, etc. So this is their perspective. And don't forget, whether you're in a small college or whether you're in, a large university, DIT, UCD, Trinity, GCU, Limerick, etc., and Cork, think about how many thousands of students are applying for that graduate job. Think of how many students, even sometimes, I remember in a couple of years ago in the crash, even people were looking for jobs and you could get 1,400 jobs for a simple waitressing position. But the average number of students that would apply for a job in terms of a graduate program could be between 1,500, 1,800 and 2,500 to 3,000. So, you need to stand out. One of the things you need to think about is ATS. Okay, so what is ATS? It's applicant tracking systems or applicant tracking software. And what is it? It's a software that manages the recruiting and hiring process. You can read through through my slides as I'm going through. I don't read every single word on all of them, but this is an important one, including job postings and job applications for organizations. It organizes the information for them about the job seeker and it makes it searchable. Now that is really important to remember. However, I worked in recruitment for a number of years myself, and even though I didn't at the time have applicant tracking software, I certainly scanned every CV for the keywords that I was looking for in the job I was trying to fill. So it does more or less the same thing, it's just in a more techie way. So my tips today, I have sort of three main tips. My tips today are around trying to make sure your CV gets read and doesn't end up in a black hole. So an important part of your, designing your CV, take the job description and highlight keywords that they've used on that job description, and then match your CV to the your keywords CVs to the job description's keywords. It's not enough just to put down MBA or SEO, etc., or even, under computer skills, you might put down MS Office. You need to use the long form and the acronym version of keywords. This is because when the company is searching, it may use MBA, or it might say Masters of Business Administration, or it might say a Bachelor of Business, etc. So use long and short acronyms. Again, it's important to use a chronological CV. There are hybrid CVs, functional CVs, which focus more on the skills side of things. But ideally, you're using a chronological CV, or maybe hybrid would mean a little bit more skills on the chronological one. Internet-friendly fonts, really important. There are some suggestions there. They are sans serif fonts. So again, internet-friendly, easy for the internet to read, which is a good idea for yourself. And generally, and there are different types of ATS, applicant tracking software, generally you would not use headers or footers, as information might just get lost. Because what it does is it takes your CVs, it takes the information on it, and it sort of creates something that's more searchable for itself. So it might just misinterpret what you have. So I've lots of do's and don'ts from that point of view. So ideally you're using 1 to 2 pages, okay? You should be using a Word document, and save your file as a docx if possible. And this is to help you beat your ATS. If you use the standard CV headings and use them, have them in bold and capitals so they just pop when someone is scanning your CV. And you'll hear this throughout the day. The ladders in the States have done extensive research on hotspots that people read when they're looking at a CV. But it used to be, the good news is the amount of time employers are spending on a CV has increased. It used to be 6.25 seconds. It's gone up to 7.25 seconds. And again, with that in mind, that's why some of the tips I'm giving you is to help the employer use those 7 seconds well. Don't use or avoid underlining. It blocks the reader's eye. avoid italics, columns and tables. It just, again, this is all about beating the ATS. In Ireland, we do not include photographs on our CVs, okay? And I will talk a little bit about design students, etc. shortly, but avoid pictures, avoid photos, it just is confusing. Step number 3 is really your layout. Your layout should be clean, it should be easy to read, it should be easy to follow. There is nothing more annoying from a hiring manager's point of view that a CV is going to take up more time than they have because they have meetings, they have deadlines, they have staff resigning, they have new staff coming in, they have training. So much going on, and they have to read a CV as well. So your job, put yourself in the shoes of the hiring manager, your job is to make sure you make their life easy, and they'll really appreciate it. So in terms of your CV, ideally, you can use your name in font 16 to 18, but the rest of it, say if you're using Calibri, I would suggest a font size 12, or if you're using Arial, you could even go down to 11. If it's too small, sometimes people use 10, and it's just hard for poor hiring managers to read sometimes. Your personal profile, really important. This is where they should be spending the 7 seconds. Use bullets, it's easier to read. Keep it to 50 to 80 words, so a little bit of work for yourself. And you tailor this for each application you apply for. The next section, generally for a graduate, will be your education. So your official degree title and results. In terms of work experience, again, you start with the most recent. Your computer and technical skills, be very specific. Don't generalize here. And then, interests, highlight any leadership, class rep, any extracurricular information that may just show another side to you. And again, if you're using, or you'll be using referees, but always ask permission first before you use referees. So in terms of personal details, use minimum space for that. Make sure your email is professional. Customize your LinkedIn URL. And in terms of IT/design students, you can also add in here maybe GitHub or Behance. And that is only if it is hyperlinked to your best work, because you want to show yourself off. Again, as I said, education and work experience, most recent first. And for anyone who may be more mature or have a little bit of experience under their belt, there may be relevant additional headings you could add in. Additional headings, you still use all these headings, but maybe ongoing professional development might be one, or training, short training courses you may have taken. You don't have to put everything down, but put down some that could be relevant and make you stand out a little bit. Again, like that, if you're more mature, it might be relevant to swap headings. So my suggestions here are personal profile stays number 1. If you are, say, an engineering or an IT student, you might put your technical skills second, followed by education, work experience, interests, and referees. If you have work experience already, if you're technical, the next one you could put in would be work experience, followed by education. So again, you're keeping the headings, but you're just tailoring them depending on where you are in your career cycle. So just a few tips on the personal profile, because it is really important. Start with, make sure it's bullets. Try and keep it to maybe not more than 80 words. Wouldn't have a heart attack if it was 90, but in and around 80 words. And the 3 headings there will be your qualifications, full name of your degree, i.e. currently studying a Bachelor of Arts in English and History, or currently studying a Bachelor of Business specialising in marketing, and use the full name of your degree. Now, if you're doing well and you are expecting to have a first class honour or a 2-1, put it down. If you have any other, maybe you've done previous courses, education courses, and you have a certificate, etc., you can add that in here. A high-level overview of your work experience. So maybe held down 2 jobs in the retail and hospitality sector to help fund myself through college, or whatever works for you, but high-level stuff. And then give an overview of your key competencies and strengths. So what have you got that they're looking for? Chances are they're looking for communication skills. Chances are they're looking for teamwork, and chances are perhaps problem solving. But you may have a couple of other that are relevant as well, depending on the job. And it does really help. So for people going into second year now, first year students going into second year, align on what you're trying to achieve. So currently seeking an internship, a graduate position, an insight day, or a placement from March to September, whatever that is. So there's your 7 seconds. So this is about the hiring manager looking at this and he gets you. That's what this is about. So here's what, you know, a suggested, a sample CV. And there are lots of templates out there. Some templates will work with ATS, others not as well. So just be careful about that. I had a student recently who said it took him 10 months to realize his really gorgeous creative CV wasn't being read by ATS. So that's important. So here's your personal profile, your education, again, most recent first. Again, you can manipulate the interview a little bit by putting in your final year project title, which could be really interesting to a hiring manager. In terms of your subjects, if you're doing a pretty new degree, it might be worth it just to add in your subjects, but you know, you don't necessarily have to include these. Okay, so then with employer, don't need the full address, just need, say, employer, location, Knockline, Dublin 16, you know, Cork City, whatever it is, and a couple of bullet points using action verbs to describe your job, your responsibilities, and if there are any achievements there as well, really important to add them in, just 1, maybe 2. So you could have been moved from not being allowed to enter, say, SPAR, unless there was someone with you, to actually being the person who was the key holder and did up the till at the end of the day. That's a promotion, and that shows responsibility. Your computer and technical skills, as I've said, so interests and referees. So in terms of, you know, a design student, without a doubt, and I find sometimes students working in technology computing like to do a more creative CV. There's nothing wrong with that, but you include a .docx version as well. Include a Word version and your creative version. Okay, so that shows real consideration for the hiring manager, which is important. Remember what they are looking for. Again, as I said, your headings always remain the same. You may have additional 1, maybe 2 additional headings if it's relevant. And your career stage can impact the flow, as I've said. Finally, when you're done, scan your CV against the job description and just remember what CV you sent into what job. So just very briefly, a final touch is your cover letter. So your cover letter, again, always try and use a name. Ring the company or look on LinkedIn, but if you can get a name of a person, and even sometimes if you're applying on Indeed or somewhere like that, the CV might have applied to, you know, Judy Murphy at whatever. So here are the 3 to 4 paragraphs. You have an opening paragraph, introduce yourself. You can read this down. Why this company? Okay, so why are you even looking at them? What's your interest? Say something interesting or nice about them. What are you offering? So why should we give you the job? Again, part of this, you've done the work on your personal profile. So it's about maybe adapting that. Another thing you can do with your personal profile is you can reduce it way down, and that can be a way to introduce yourself to an employer, you know, or even the personal profile can be your tell me about yourself at an interview. And then your closing paragraph, be polite, always be positive and upbeat, and why you believe you're suitable for the role and that you're available for interview. So one of my pet do's and don'ts is do not, in a TY, in a transition year CV, you're more than likely going to write CV on the top of your CV and sign it. Do not do this on a professional CV. Ideally, avoid photographs, and you shouldn't be putting anything that could discriminate against you on your CV, like, as I've said there, dates of birth, nationality, etc. And you scan it so many times. Even sometimes in advertising, they'll say you need to read something 21 times before you're sure that the CV doesn't have any typos or errors. Now, here's a page you might like to just take a picture of. I've just added in, you know, action changes things. So you have to take action for yourself to be successful. it is a job to find a job, and you may not get the first job, but believe me, I have a lot of experience working with people searching for jobs and with graduates getting jobs. And sometimes the job you don't get is the right thing for you. You might really want a job that actually it's just not the right one for you. So never worry about it. It's never failure if you don't get, if you're not successful in a job search. It is never failure. It's a learning, you know, it's a real learning exercise. So what I've put in here is different links to pages. That's it. So if you want to take a picture of that now, different links to pages that can help you understand your strengths, help you understand what your values are, how you make decisions. All Things Graduate. Grad Ireland is a great resource, as is careersportal.ie, as is prospects.ac.uk. Because if you're a bit iffy about, you know, what am I going to do? I'm not sure what I'm really interested in. These can help you. Lots of quizzes on there that can help you. Qualifax is everything you need to know about courses. You should have come across it in school. And really, your experts are the career service. These are qualified, experienced career consultants across all universities and colleges. And the service is free. It is a free service that would cost you a lot of money if you were to go privately to it. And, you know, they can really, really help you. So use them to your advantage. So that's it from me, guys. Opportunities don't happen, you create them. And here's the career tree. So it's about your skills, your work experience, your academic education, learning about your abilities. And we've all done perseverance this year. You know, it's been in the past year, I know people keep saying it, but you know, some of the students liked actually working from home. Some people just embraced it and got on with it. And for others, it was hard, but that's life, you know. Think about your brand, think about your contact. And now that you've finished one academic year, and I know results are coming out in most colleges this week, think about what's that one thing you could do differently that might get you better results next year. You know, you've only got 30 odd weeks in college a year. Make the most of it and enjoy. Thank you. Back to you, Piers.
That was great. Judy, thank you so much for that. Really, really appreciate it. I'm sure everyone watching, you know, would agree that really good insights and really practical tips that people can actually use right away as well, which are really, really good. Just interesting, in the poll there that actually we asked was about, you know, do you struggle to know what experiences and skills to put on your CV?
Yeah.
And over 90% of people said yes, which I think is an overwhelming result. So just kind of leading on for that, this question here that comes in, which is, you know, does experience take priority over your grade? Or I think maybe another way to potentially phrase it is, maybe you're hoping to get a 2-1, but it's looking like it's going to be a 2-2, or you're looking to get first, it's going to be 2-1. But you feel like, you know, can you use your experience to maybe offset that on the CV somehow?
Absolutely. And I just think, you know, everybody needs to think, regardless of where they go to college, regardless of where they're studying, if you work hard and, you know, there's other elements to take into account as well. You may have work experience, you may have done volunteering, and sometimes that can actually eat into your study time. And it's important, and I think the recommendation is if you work between more than 10 to 15 hours a week, you work more than that while you're in college, it can impact on your results. And in my experience, students often come in probably around January saying, oh, the course is too hard, it's really difficult. But actually they're just exhausted. So cutting back on those hours certainly help you, and that experience helps. Your degree is of value to you for a certain length of time, for sure. But even if, you know, I'm assuming the question is, I didn't get a first class honour or I didn't get a 2-1. There are companies that employ people who they're looking for a first class honour. Some are looking for a 2-1, but not all graduate employers are looking for that. I think I read a stat once where up to 17% of graduates want any discipline to apply, regardless. And then if you were someone who some companies just look for people who have gone on to third level and who have perhaps a degree, at level 8. They may look for someone who has a level 7 degree, you know, which in some of the IoTs you can get as well. So that, don't worry if you're not going to get a difference. What I said at the end there is maybe you have just scraped through this year. What can you change next year that's going to bring you up a bit, either out of a fail into a pass, from a pass to a 2-2, 2-2 to 1, etc. When you have a lot of work experience, it really is all in the spin. And the challenge with someone who has worked in an organization, and I've come from industry, but the challenge for someone who has worked in an organization for a long time is you don't spend a lot of time necessarily thinking about your skills, but actually the people around you, they know you're great at organizing, or you're great at project management, or you're great at communication. And they're your skills. So for people who have more experience, you're selling your skills. You're selling your skills, but you need to step back and have a look. And on the slide where
Oh, sorry, Judy, that might be my fault. You know, internet issues might have disappeared me there, but we got the majority of it there in mind anyway. Just a couple of final questions just in mind to get. I think this is a really interesting one actually, which comes in from Mungo Harris, which is, what do employers think of people who don't have social media?
say that again, what do employers think
of people who don't have social media? So maybe they're Googled and they don't come up on the likes of, you know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, these kind of things.
Well, they just don't have social media, you know. So if I was an employer and I was looking to hire someone to come in to do digital marketing for me and they didn't have social media, I would be quite concerned. But I know I definitely have come across people who do not like to use social media. I've come across graduates who've come off social media, you know, for lots of different reasons. So it just depends, I think, on the role you're going for. It just wouldn't look great if you were going for a social media job and you weren't, you know, you weren't up on it. You weren't using it. You didn't have the experience. So if they Google you and you're not up, you're not up.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think maybe the one platform people should have is maybe LinkedIn.
I think
But
LinkedIn,
I say it depends on the job you're going for.
I think it depends on the job, but to be honest, if anyone is looking for a job, you really need to be on LinkedIn. You may choose not to go on it, but you do need to be on LinkedIn. And the reality is, LinkedIn is where lots of organizations have stopped using agencies and they moved on to LinkedIn. It's more cost effective for them. When you're on LinkedIn, if you populate it carefully and you're using all the keywords for the type of job you want, you will get found and you will get people offering you positions or calling you for jobs. So it's definitely another channel. And so you have word of mouth to get jobs, which is, it works every time. It might take time to get a job. So don't worry if it takes you 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. Don't worry, the jobs are there, but you have to be proactive in looking for them. It's a graduates market at the moment. There are more jobs than there are graduates. So it's definitely a graduates market at the moment. And LinkedIn is certainly another channel. And then, Indeed, last but not least, Indeed, which is the aggregate, obviously for all the job or most of the job sites, that is another channel. But at the biggest, most important one, and LinkedIn would even quote that 85% of jobs are found for people through LinkedIn. So it is an important one to be on, but you may choose not to use it for whatever reason, and you just have to use other methods then to find your job.
Yeah, no, really, really good advice again, Judy. And yeah, really practical and something people can implement right away, which is good. I've